Let me now welcome one of the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners, Ty Menser. Ty Menser has been a fearsome advocate in this movement. He's been wonderful in response to the Summit Lake community. He and his co-commissioner, Commissioner Mejia, who's also here with us this afternoon, spoke wonderfully at a rally that we held at the Board of Natural Resources building a few months ago in September. So please join me in welcoming Ty Menser.
Thank you. So I was invited to provide a local perspective on some of these issues, and I want to hit a couple things up front though. Thank you so much for your recognition of Sue Gunn, who was a fierce and powerful environmental advocate on a range of issues. Eric said that when she was a short time she was on the board, she gave the board a kick in the butt, and I understood that because Sue Gunn was my 2018 campaign manager, and I was the recipient of many of those kicks in the butt, and she kicked my butt right onto the Board of County Commissioners, so here I am. I also want to acknowledge, and Eric did it as well, that Commissioner Mejia is here. We're 2 of your 3 county commissioners in Thurston County, but the voters just voted to add 2 more. So you will be electing 2 more county commissioners in November of 2023. And this is your opportunity to make sure those commissioners know about this issue, or those candidates, I should say, and make sure that you ask them the question, are they going to stay committed to the work that this Board of County Commissioners has started on this issue? And so that's a way for you to support this work at a local level with your vote. And both of those commissioners will be elected by the entire county. So Capital State Forest is the major piece of state managed forest land in Thurston County. It's all in my district on the west side of Thurston County. It contains about 7% of what we consider to be legacy forest. And less than half of that is protected through riparian zone management and other conservation constructs. So it's estimated that there are about 3,100 acres of unprotected legacy forest, and that's about 4.5% of your state managed forest lands here in this county. So that's what we're talking about. You know, it's always, when I didn't know much about this a year ago, and when I got involved, because community actually it was near where Eric lives, near Alpine area, Delphi Road, there was a cut called the Oracle Cut that was going to take down a legacy forest piece that was very beloved by the neighbors there. And first thing I wanted to know is, what are we talking about here? If we ask DNR not to cut these acres of legacy forest, what are we asking? Well, it's 4.5% in this county. So that's something to keep in mind when we talk about the revenue streams and what's really left and what we're really asking. I also serve as vice chair on the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. So this community has worked together for a number of years on a 4-phase plan, and we're in the 4th implementation phase of some climate mitigation strategies, and that plan requires carbon sequestration, additional carbon sequestration, not losing any ground from where we're at, but adding carbon sequestration in order to meet our aggressive targets to accomplish the targets for greenhouse gas reductions locally. So that's all the context. We heard about the carbon project that DNR began, and phase 1, Thurston County got a small number of acres, and we were told that 7,500 more acres were going to be identified for phase 2. So a light bulb went off. This was last spring and early summer. We've got 3,100 acres of unprotected legacy forest. DNR is going to identify 7,500 acres. Many counties don't even want to be part of this carbon project. We do. So the Board of County Commissioners sent a letter saying, please, now they've got a high conservation framework, they call it, a whole bunch of values that they're trying to juggle. But we said, listen to the community. We want the legacy forest pieces of Capital State Forest put in a high priority for your inclusion into phase 2. So we were hopeful that might be a win-win for DNR and for Thurston County. In September, we received word that none of our acres of legacy forest that we were hopeful would be included were on the list for inclusion. And they haven't finalized that list, but there's nothing that we wanted to protect that's there. So that was disappointing. And what's really disappointing and concerning and alarming to constituents in Thurston County is that 4 cuts in the next 6 months are scheduled that involve pieces of legacy forest. Now, if you look at a map that the Center for Responsible Forestry has produced of where is our legacy forest in Thurston County, unfortunately for us, it's very fragmented. If you see the map of Capital State Forest, it's little strips here, there, and everywhere. There's a process in the law called reconveyance. Now, reconveyance only applies if there's 2 ways that the DNR gets the land, and one of them is when the county conveyed the land around the Great Depression. If that was the way that the land was conveyed, we can ask for it back. Only about 30% of what we're looking at in Capital State Forest would be eligible. But even that 30%, they're just little strips and pieces here and there, so it's very difficult for Thurston County to utilize that mechanism. So that's been, a difficulty. But, we want to see DNR look to the future. Use the language that you heard earlier from the Supreme Court about the variety of goals that can be utilized to manage these forests. The world is changing. Climate change, the science is changing. We need to recognize the distinction of legacy forest as it's been defined here as a legitimate and reasonable thing to prioritize in management. Peter Goldmark said, absolutely, different management strategies could backfill the revenue. We're talking about 4.5%. But I'm here today to say, and all 3 county commissioners have put in writing to DNR that if it just means not cutting and we get 4.5% less revenue, we're fine with that. We need to protect these pieces of forest. So just to close up, what can you do? I think we need to continue to oppose the cuts. I agree with Ira, who at the beginning said I don't want to deal with this on a cut-by-cut basis. We need to tackle this problem at a high level. I want to work with our local state legislators on something that will attack this, systemically and really solve this problem and not piecemeal. But in the meantime, I will continue. I put a copy of a letter on the back table that I just sent 2 days ago regarding an upcoming cut. Again, there's 4 coming in the next 6 months. It'll give you a sense of the arguments that your local commissioners are making to the state and the kind of arguments that you can make to show that you want DNR to manage our forests for a broader set of community interests. Revenue for beneficiaries? Sure. But we also want to look at our local climate mitigation plan, our community recreational activities, wildlife habitat, biodiversity, in-stream flow of our surface water sources, forest resiliency, the possibility of creating old growth forest in the near term, and also things to protect, like at Summit Lake, and we haven't really got into that here today, but protecting against property damage and things like landslide, flooding, and water contamination. Those things all need to be considered when DNR manages our state forest lands, because as you heard from the beginning, and as Peter made very clear, these are to be managed for all the people of the state of Washington. And so I believe the momentum is building on this issue, and that's reflected in the number of people that are here today. And so I want you to help me to keep this pressure on, and let's get this done.